Welcome back, everybody. So today I wanted to talk about my Colombia story. I'm gonna make this a two-part video only because the story is very, very long, and I don't want to make a 40 to an hour video. That's way too long. So I'm gonna split it up into two. So another little disclaimer. Please, well, first of all, I appreciate everyone who's followed me and future followers. I really appreciate it. But one thing I want to say is negative comments. I'm gonna start ignoring negative comments only because in my last video I kind of entertained the negative comment, and I don't wanna be that guy. So from now on, I'm just gonna avoid negative comments, only positive. And I know with this video there's gonna be a lot of negative comments, a lot of like people are asking me stuff like why'd I do this, why'd I do that. But hey, it's just life. Can't do anything about it. Can't rewind. Everybody makes mistakes, and I'm just glad I'm alive, and I'm glad I'm healthy. That's what's important. So let's get into it. So let's rewind back to June of 2022. So at that time I was working at a hospital back in Massachusetts. I was there working for 5 years. I was just burnt out. Every day I would think about traveling because I've honestly always been a big traveler. Like, I remember the last about 2 years of that job, I was very lucky because they actually were very lenient with me about traveling, because I'm a big cruiser. So I've been on about 17 cruises. So I was just doing that. I was just going to Dominican Republic, visiting a lot of different countries. So yeah, rewind to June 2022. So I reached my limit. Like, I made my mind up that I was gonna just quit the job and just start traveling. Like, I needed, at that point, I worked 5 years at that job, 5 years at another job, so just 10 years of just straight working 60, 70-hour weeks. So I had a good amount of money saved up and everything. So I decided I'm just gonna leave the job and just take some time to travel, unwind, and so that's exactly what I did. So I remember I went to, like, about a month or two later, I went to the Dominican Republic. So I have family there, and I met up with my brother, one of my older brothers. And so I remember one Saturday we went clubbing. So it was me, him, and one of his friends, and we met up with another friend that was already there at the club. So it was a good night. We had fun, everything. The club ended, right? The club ended around 3 or 4. So I remember the friend that we met there, he was gonna have like an after party at his house. He had like a big house with a pool and all that. And he said he was gonna invite Colombians and Venezuelans. And so I'm just thinking, I'm in DR, I'm thinking like, how's there Colombians and Venezuelans here? Like, I thought it was mostly all Dominicans there. So I was like, okay, whatever, let's go. So we all went, and yeah, we get there, and then I would say about half an hour later, about these four Colombians and Venezuelans walked in, and I'm confused. I'm like, what the heck? How did they just pop out of nowhere? And it turns out that my brother told me that they were prepaid, which is pretty much like escort types. And I immediately told my brother, I'm like, no, I'm not that type. I'm not the type that, I don't like strippers or any of those type of professions. I avoid it. So I told him, I'm like, I'll chill here, but I'm not doing anything with any of those girls, because just the thought of who knows how many men they were with before or that same day, that honestly grosses me out. So whatever, I was just chilled there on the couch. They went off with whoever they went off, and then I stayed talking there with one of them. I told them, listen, I respect whatever what you do, but I'm not that type. We could just sit and talk. So we sat there and talked, and she was telling me about, like, I was just asking her, like, about herself, and she said, yeah, she's from Colombia and everything, and she's from a city called Cucuta, which is where I'm at now. So that kind of, like, she kind of opened my eyes to Colombia, because Colombia was, like, never in my radar when it comes to traveling. Like, it never occurred to me to go to Colombia. So she kind of opened my eyes to the thought of going to Colombia. So that day ended, yeah, everything fine. Like, that trip, I was in the Dominican Republic that trip was about 2 weeks. And so when I got back home, I couldn't stop, like, thinking about Colombia. I was, like, doing research on it, watching YouTube videos, all of that. Until I decided that I was gonna go and visit. So I remember asking my brother, my friends, like, everybody was giving me excuses that they couldn't go because of their job or because, you know, their girlfriend won't let them. Every excuse in the book. So I just said, you know what, I'm not gonna wait on anybody to travel. If I want to go somewhere, I'm just gonna go. So I just went. I booked a flight and I went alone, which was mistake number one. You should never come to Colombia alone, because if you think you have a target on your back, like, it becomes even bigger when you're alone, when you come to Colombia alone. So yeah, I just decided to come alone. So about a month later, because I didn't have a job, remember, so probably 2 or 3 weeks later is when I booked that trip. So I went. The first city I went to was Cartagena. So I went. Instantly when I got there, man, I loved the feeling. Like, it felt like I was in a completely different place. Like, I loved it. Like, the beach, it was called Boca Grande. The beach was alright. It wasn't, I thought it would be better. But then I later found out that there's islands close by where it's really, like, the really nice water, nice, like, turquoise water, like white sand beaches, all of that. So, but either way, like, when I got there, like, the beach that was there was still good enough, because they had these Airbnbs or hotels that you can book that was right beachside. And man, when I stayed there, man, I felt like a king. It was nice. So yeah, I was there a few days just enjoying the beach and getting to know people, like, on the beach and all of that. So I would say I booked a 2-week trip. So I would say the first week went fine, no problems. So I would say, yeah, like, about a week in, I remember I was staying at an Airbnb, and I remember I ran out of, like, water and just, like, food, because at first I was ordering a lot, but then I decided to cook, because I'm a decent cook. So back home I would always cook my food. So I decided to save a little money and go out and buy something to cook. So yeah, the day that my food ran out, it was already nighttime. So I could only get, like, simple stuff, like, for example, water, chips, like, just little stuff to eat. So yeah, I remember it was about 11 o'clock. So one thing you should know about Cartagena is that at 6 o'clock they close the beach. The police come and they kick everybody out of the beach. And at 6, that's around when the sun is setting. So yeah, so it gets dark about around 7. And in that area, like, beachside, it's completely dark. No street lights, no anything. It's just completely dark, like, and completely, like, nobody walks by there. They actually say it's dangerous, but I didn't know that. So I remember, yeah, it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I decided, like, let me just go to, like, the corner store and just buy some water and everything, because I was just completely dry. So I went out of my hotel, whatever. I was walking along where the beach side, because I was staying on the beach side, and it was completely dark. Yeah, there was cars passing, but I honestly wasn't really, like, attentive of what was happening. So I was just walking, and also I didn't know where I was going. I just walked in a straight line, until I found the store. So like it's not like I was using GPS or anything, like because there's a lot of stores around there. So I just figured if I just walk, like I'll eventually find a store that's open. So I was walking along the beach there. It was completely dark and everything, and I see a car pass by, but nothing. Didn't think anything of it. So I go and reach a corner, right? And as I'm turning the corner, I feel like something on my back. And it was somebody. It was a guy. He told me like, "Oh, keep walking." And I felt something on my back. I don't know what it was, but later I found out it was a gun. So he told me keep walking, and I was shook. So I kept walking. I listened to him. He told me keep walking, or you're gonna get hurt. So I kept walking, and we walked a little bit forward, and there was a car parked there. So he told me to get in the car. So we get in the car, and in the car was like 3 other dudes. So I get in the back seat, and then there's one guy on this side, one guy on the other side, and one guy has a taser on my leg, and the other guy has a gun pointed at me. They told me, give me everything you have, your phone, everything. So I'm like, all right, take everything, I don't care. Just take everything. So they took everything. Then they asked me the passcode on my phone. And so they got in, and they made me go to my banking app or whatever and everything. But I made an excuse. I told them I don't have data there because the data was very slow and everything. So because I have T-Mobile, so like when you go out of the country, they give you a little bit of data, but like it's just very, very slow. So I told them my phone doesn't have data, but just take my card, because I had my debit card on me. Just take my card, whatever. Take whatever you can get. So we drive to like an ATM, and they drop one of the guys off there with my card. And then we keep driving off. Like he stayed there at the ATM, and we drove off. So we were just doing loops until the guy takes money out of my card. So yeah, we do a couple loops, and yeah, they're just there. Like one guy offers me like a cigarette. I'm like, no, I don't smoke. I was like, and all that. So we do a couple loops, and the driver was like on the phone with another guy. So we do a couple loops, and then we go and pick up the guy at the ATM. And the guy said, oh, he only took out like $500, because I don't know, there must have been a limit, or I don't know if like something about the ATMs just don't throw money after a certain point, something like that. But they only managed to take $500. So instead, what they did, so once they picked up the other guy, they told me, oh, transfer money to us. Like they said, open your PayPal and send money. So I sent them about another $1,000. So they took $500 in cash, and then through PayPal I sent them like another $1,000. And so yeah, like we kept driving around. We kept driving around until we picked up another guy. And then he said, oh, they tried to squeeze more money out of me. But the thing is, I went a little bit prepared, because I knew Colombia was a little bit dangerous. So I had deleted one of my banking apps, like the most important one. And I kept like, because I have multiple accounts, so I kept one with just a small amount of money. So I told them, oh, that's all I have. Like I'm only here another week. Like I just came to visit. That's all I have. I don't have anything else. So eventually, yeah, they drove off to this like little, like it was a dark alley place, and I got scared because yeah, they told me to get out of the car, and one guy got out of the car, the guy with the gun, he got out with me, and he kept walking. Like we kept walking into the darkness. So I got shook. I thought he was gonna shoot me, and like then they were gonna get away. But he told me, oh, keep walking and don't turn around. So we kept walking. And yeah, and then like he let me go off alone, and then he like stayed back a little bit, but was still pointing the gun at me. And then they eventually, what they did is the guy ran back to the car. They switched license plates. So they really quick, like they all switched the license plates, and then they all got on the car and sped off. So then at that point I was happy, because I thought I was gonna get shot. I thought they were gonna like kill me and just leave me in the ditch there. But no, they actually like sped off, and at that point I was just happy. Like I went back on the street, and the first taxi I found, I told them, listen, bring me to my hotel, like I'll give you whatever. So yeah, they brought me back to my hotel. I ended up having to like get some cash I had from the hotel. But after that happened, honestly, that kind of like, I didn't go out of my hotel for like 2 days. I was honestly just like very shook. Like I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew about that. Nobody. I kept it to myself. So I was like, damn, I have two options. I just go home early, book another flight and go home early, or I stay here another week just in the hotel and don't go out. But I didn't want to do that because I get bored very easily when I'm alone. So I didn't want to just stay in the hotel for a week. So what I did is I remembered back in Dominican Republic when I was talking to like the escort girl, that she told me she was from a city in Colombia, which was called Cucuta. So in my head I thought, damn, Cartagena, like this probably happened to me because it's a tourist city. So I would imagine all the robbers or, you know, bad people come to tourist cities to rob people. So I figured, it was a dumb reasoning, but I figured maybe going to Cucuta, maybe it wouldn't be as dangerous because there's no tourists, almost no tourists. So what I decided to was book a flight because it was very cheap. A flight was like $30 from Cartagena to Cucuta, and it was like an hour flight. So it was either that or book like a $500 to like $700 flight back home. So obviously I'm gonna choose $30. So I booked a $30 flight and went to Cucuta and came here. Instantly, when I got here, like I liked it. I really liked it. But I only booked that flight for 4 days. So I booked a return flight back to Cartagena, because just in case if I didn't like it, because I came here without doing any research. So I just booked it for like 3-4 days just to see if I like it and just to not be stuck at home, stuck in the hotel. So I came here and yeah, instantly it was a whole different vibe. Like I liked it. So what I did, I booked the Airbnb here, and I just explored the city. Like I went to the mall. I was mostly at the mall because the Airbnb I was staying at was like right close to the mall. So I was close to the mall, and I would just be there, chill there, and just walk around. And eventually I met somebody here. So I met someone here, and we kept in contact. Like I eventually ended up going back to Cartagena, but me and the girl kept in contact. So I went back to Cartagena, and then I ended up going back home, and I kept in contact with the girl. So after that, instead of me being scared and coming back to Colombia, I ended up coming back, like back and forth every like month and a half to visit the girl, because I kept in contact with the girl. So I ended up making about 2 or 3 more trips here back to Cucuta. So I didn't stay in Cartagena anymore or any of the major cities. I would stay here because it was just more, it was better. It's just no tourists. It's just more low key, and you know, it just felt good being here. So eventually 2 months later, I ended up coming back. Everything fine, like nothing happened to me, like no problems. It was just exploring and getting to know the girl. So the girl, that was another story. So everything was good with her. Like everything was good. It was a long distance like kind of relationship. I don't know if I would call it a relationship, because I never asked her to be my girlfriend, but we pretty much acted like it. So I would come back and visit her all the time, and we spend the whole times together, and everything was good. So I would say I went back. So I left. I went back in September and then in November. So I did 2 separate trips back here to Cucuta. And so at that point, after the 3rd trip, I was about 5 or 6 months already had talked to her. So I had another flight back, so which was the third trip to visit her, which was, I had it booked already. So, but then something happened, like in the last Christmas to New Year's time. So what happened with her was we kind of fell off, because so on Christmas was good. She was gonna spend it with her grandma and her mom. So everything was good. Like, we kept in contact all the time. So Christmas was fine, right? New Year's came. And in New Year's, I noticed, because, well, you guys are going to think I'm a little bit toxic for this, but it was a long-distance relationship. So what I would do is I'd keep close tabs on her, because the thing is, with long-distance relationships, you can't really trust it. You can't really trust relationships in general, but long-distance is even more tough, because, you know, you can be talking to anybody and you just don't know. I didn't want to go through any of that. So once in a while, what I would do is I would look at her Instagram, because one time she told me about an ex that she had, and she mentioned his name, but I don't think she remembered that I remembered his name. So what I would do, like, just to be careful, because one thing about, like, Colombian culture is, for some reason, they always seem to keep in contact with exes. Always. Like, I don't know why, don't ask me why, but that's just the culture. Here is like, everyone is in a relationship or in a couple. So for some reason, when someone's single, like, exes are always looming around. So I remember, yeah, it was New Year's, and once in a while, I would just check her Instagram, like, just to see if he followed her, because I remembered his name, and I ended up finding his. A few months earlier, I had found his Instagram. So once in a while, I would just check her followers and make sure that they weren't following each other or anything, because they weren't following each other. She told me that, like, a bad story about a breakup that they had and everything. So yeah, about once every 2 weeks, I would just look at her Instagram and make sure that they didn't start following each other again. So it hits New Year's, and I wake up. I remember it was New Year's Day. I wake up and I checked her followers. This was like, she was sleeping. Like, I was back home, yeah, sleeping, because what I would do is, when I wake up, you know, we'll text her, and then once she wakes up, we'll FaceTime or something. So I remember I woke up. For some reason, I just wanted to check the Instagram. So I checked, and I noticed that they had just started following each other. And I'm like, damn, that's weird. So I call her. I wake her up. She wakes up. She's like, oh, like, yeah, good morning, whatever. I'm like, oh, like, what happened last night? Like, what do you do for New Year's? Like, did you go to you were just at your grandma's house? Did you do anything after? And she's like, no, we were just chilling there in the porch, like, nothing. And then I went to sleep. And I'm like, oh, mind you, I actually forgot a step. So when I saw that they were following each other, I actually messaged them. So I sent them a message. I told them, like, oh, like, what's up with you and this girl? I don't want to mention names, but I'm like, oh, what's up with you and this girl? Like, she told me that you guys, you know, like, you guys aren't friends, you guys aren't anything. So like you guys started following each other. So like what's the deal with that? And then he told me, like, oh, no, we're just friends. I'm like, no, but she told me you guys aren't friends. So yeah, but then he stopped replying to me, because I don't know why, but he just stopped replying to me. And so that's when I called her. And so she was sleeping, so she wakes up, and I say, like, oh yeah, what were you doing last night? Like, anything? And she said, yeah, she was at her grandma's house, and then she went to sleep. Nothing. She didn't go out or nothing. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, you know, I just talked to your ex, and he told me that you guys were together. But that was a trick. That was a lie. I just said that on purpose to see if she would admit something. So like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know if they had seen each other. All I knew was that they had started following each other again. So I told her, oh, you know, I was just talking to your ex, and he told me that you guys were together, like, last night. So like what's the deal with that? And so she admitted, oh yeah, like, he passed by my grandma's house, and we started talking, and yada yada yada. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so what? You were just not gonna tell me that? You weren't gonna mention it? You were just gonna just not mention it? Like, you guys were gonna become friends again, and who knows what was gonna happen, and you were gonna just stay talking to me? Like, nah. And so I guess he had messaged her, and then they got, I don't know, they talked, and I told her, oh, send me screenshots of your conversation or whatever. And she didn't want to send me. So I told her, like, you know what? I'm just gonna cut things off, because that was already that was gonna be a start. Like, luckily, like, me doing that saved me probably a few months of wasting my time. So I was just like, you know, whatever. Like, I'm just gonna cut this off early, like, cause it's already long distance. Like, I'm not gonna, and an ex was gonna be involved, so I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother. I'm not gonna bother. It's gonna be a waste of time. So I literally, from that day on, like, I blocked her and never talked to her again. She tried contacting me and everything, but I just completely cut it off. I was like, nah, cause me, I'm like a no tolerance guy. Like, if someone does something to me, that's just as bad as cheating. Starting to talk to an ex, that's just as bad as cheating. So I cut that off, and I was like, nah, like, I'm not gonna waste my time. I already know it's gonna be a waste of time. So yeah, cut off all contact. And mind you, I still had the trip, which was the end of January, to go visit her, but we stopped talking January 1st. So I was like, damn, what do I do? Like, I can't cancel my flight or nothing. So like, damn, what should I do? Should I still go, or should I just cancel the trip? So I thought about it a few weeks. I'm like, whatever, I just decided to go. Decided to still go back to Cucuta. So yeah, so I still went, but stay tuned for part 2, because part 2, I'm gonna tell you the whole second half, everything that happened after her, and then I got to know more people, and I'll tell you some more things that happened. So stay tuned, subscribe, and stay tuned for part 2. I'll post it a few days after I post this one. But if you watched the video, thanks for sticking by. Once again, I appreciate all the new subscribers. Stay tuned for future videos. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.